Welcome to the next tutorial. This tutorial will go into more detail into the code that released by AQA, the skeleton code in Java. That's for the 2013 June exam for Com1. So here we're going to be discussing the code line by line and trying to make sense of what it does. First things, generic comments. Here is I'm importing the classes that AQA has made available, console, read text file. There is another one, write file, but I don't need it now here. The fact of importing a file means that I'm making use of the functionality, of this functionality of a library. So think of these files as a book I made available and kind of dictionary. I can use the words from that dictionary, so I have that kind of functionality available for my program. If you want to know what this file is doing, I think you can read from there what it does. So that's another thing that you can learn is the good use of comments. By making comments to the class, now you can read this text and have some idea of what this class is doing or wants to achieve anyway. So that thing said, we're going to now debug this. Debug is something that is used by professional programmers, and what it does, it helps you going through the code one if you want, a statement at a time. By knowing what the program does at every moment, you'll be able to be aware of any error of the program, or where you can improve the program, or things of the sort. You have more control of the execution of the program. So what I want you to do now is to click here to open the perspective for debug. So I click here, debugging, and now I have that, I don't know, it's a beetle, well, something like that. And now what I want to do is to create some breakpoints. What is a breakpoint? Well, a breakpoint is where I want the program to stop the execution. So when the program runs, it's gonna stop at certain points. So here I make this before these breakpoints. You do those by double click. So here is nothing, double click, and now you have a small blue bullet point. That means that it will stop there. So you can do that anywhere you want. Double click there, it will break the execution there, and it will wait for you to do something. Okay, the breakpoints done. I'm going to execute the program now. Another thing I want to say is to please open your notepads, put the notepads by the side, on the side, and make note of the things we're going to be discussing now, because for you it's going to be a good way of reviewing later on for the exam. So I'm going to press here on the beetle here, debug main already running. Okay, good. So first thing will stop is in here, main. Why? Well, you know that the first method that Java program calls is the one named public static void main. So it ignores all the other functions, all the other methods, and I will go to this one, and from here it will run on the sequence of statements to run this program. In this case we just have one statement here, new main. Well, this new main is just calling the constructor of class main. So let's move to the next statement is going to execute. Okay, good. So this is public main. Public main is the constructor of the class main. So we have here public class main, and as we know here the constructor has the access for this method and the name of the class as the name of the method. So public main is a constructor of this class. So let me just write that down. I'm going to put here constructor. Yep. As the first thing is doing is calling the constructor. Now we move into the next part of the code. Let's see what happened here. Now, next part. Let's see. Next sequence is calling this. The first after you go to the main, it goes here to AQA console, new AQA console 2013. Why is that? Well, this is because this variable is a global variable. Yeah, and he wants to make sure that if we're going to be using that, he needs to know what are the global variables, and this one is going to have the the scope of this variable is going to be from this bracket, these bracelets, to the end of the class bracelet. That means it's going to have it can reach any method inside this class, so it can be used anywhere in the class basically. So notice that there is a difference between what is global and what is local. Yeah, I'll give you an example of local now. So we only have one global variable. In this case is just a console. Okay, so after that let's move on to that. We're going through different variables. Fine. Notice here one thing. Here I'm declaring a variable, so I'm declaring something. So I'm declaring a variable. So I'm declaring a variable. Notice that I just declaring. What does it mean declare? Declare means that I just telling you what is the type and the name. Well, in this case, the name of the variable is called identifier. So whenever you see the name, so what is the name or the label? If they say the label or name, label or name, label or name of variable. Well, okay, sorry about the spelling, but variable equal identifier. Yeah. So you see that on the exam. What is the identifier for this variable? Then that means the name of the variable. Obviously, notice that the name he's used for this variable is meaningful. Yeah, ciphertext. Don't just put there text A, text B, text C, because then you don't know what later on what you're referring to. Yeah. Right. So choice int. Let's leave these two variables for now. Is creating two objects, and he's doing that for a reason that he explains here, but I will cover that later on. Then let's move on. Next sequence, next one. You will see here that is loading the variables. Yeah, so you have the variables here, you have declared the variables, and now you will have ciphertext hasn't got anything. Okay, let's move on to the next one, and let me see which one's the next one. So plain text as well. Yeah, so let's see. Do I have plain text? Yes, plain text is nothing there either. So what I'm trying to say here, and I hope that you get the idea, is all these variables, yeah, are somewhere in memory. So for that's why you need the type, because you need to know how much memory allocate to these variables. So in this case, this variable is int is at 32 bits, I think. Yeah, that you have of size reserved for this safe array fence. I don't know for chart how much it was. On a string is something that is dynamic, it will depend. Yeah, depends on how much text you put in there. But basically, these variables will be stored in the RAM memory. Yeah, right. So next thing I'll go. Well, I declare the variables. I assign value to the variables. So let's move to the next one. I calling a method. Notice how I call the method. The method is just called name, and then in this case I don't take any parameter, so it's just name of the method and 2 parentheses, and that was it. Because I don't put any value here, because this method doesn't take any parameter. So that's how I call it, display menu and then empty brackets. You know that it doesn't take any parameters because here doesn't expect any parameters. If it were to expect any parameters, it will show you here. So what this one is doing is, okay, let's see the sequence of instruction that is stored here. Okay. First thing, console print. Okay, let's run this one. Console print. Next one, print. You see, console print plain text options. This is on the console now. Next one, a display the plain text for users. So you're getting the idea. So each line is just that is executed. Yeah, in this case, because it's a console print, you can see the result on the console. Alright, so that's printed. Then I'll go back and say choice equal get menu choice. An important, interesting thing to mention here. You see that here we have an equal sign. Yeah, so we are assigning choice. So we're assigning the return of this to the variable choice. So that means I am expecting some return from this function. Yes, this function is returning something. So let's see what it does return. So get menu choice. Did I press here? Okay, did I get menu choice? Car menu choice. Okay, this is a character. Console.read car. So I'm going to be reading a character from the console. Yeah. So whatever you enter here is going to be assigned to menu choice. So let's see what the console read chart is doing. I think if I were to press here, okay, it will go to the console. Yeah. Oh no, it's waiting for me to enter something, sorry. So let's see if I were to enter A. So now console print ln, so it will give me an empty line. That's what it's doing. It's printing an empty line. And then let me see what it's doing. Return the menu choice. What is the value of the menu choice? Well, the value of the menu choice is the one I enter here. But the problem is because I type a space, he hasn't got it. And so it's gonna complain. Let me see what happened now. Okay, menu choice. Alright, that's a good example now because in Switch there is no such case as empty. So, okay, what's gonna happen? Can you think of what is going to happen? I stop and then we'll move on to the next tutorial. Just think what is going to happen if the choice is none of the choice here. So just have a look in here and tell me what is going to happen. And see you in the next tutorial.